Peyton Manning, before his season was lost, reportedly went overseas for stem cell treatment on his neck.
Ball is hit in the air to left field. Brett Gardner is there, and Colon, a 4-hit shutout.
Bartolo Colon underwent treatment in the Dominican.
Should stick a bit.
And this pitcher, in a last-ditch attempt to heal, has left the United States for this therapy banned by the federal government.
No reason in the world for our elite athletes to have to go offshore or somewhere else to get the best treatment to enhance biologic healing.
You're very comfortable with the safety of what you do.
Absolutely. I mean, we have published on the safety of what we do.
But many scientists warn that not only is stem cell therapy ineffective, it can actually be dangerous.
The chances of things going wrong are higher than the chances of helping.
Today, Outside the Lines, the stem cell treatment debate.
And now, reporting for Outside the Lines, Bob Lee.
Performance-enhancing athletes using foreign substances to help their output or to heal faster. That's rocked an entire generation of Major League Baseball, from perceptions of historic performances to criminal prosecutions, and it's forced all sports to test. But what about athletes who use the product of their own bodies to heal from injuries? What are the ethics of that? And more importantly, the legality. We're talking about stem cell therapy, a field where reports of fraud are rampant, even as athletes as prominent as Peyton Manning and Terrell Owens buy in. But right now they have to leave the country to do so. Sean Assail of ESPN The Magazine now on what may be the next great advance in sports medicine or an unregulated danger.
My name is Mark McCormack. I was a first-round draft pick of the St. Louis Cardinals. I've had 5 shoulder surgeries. Stem cells are my last shot.
Mark McCormack practices the long toss every day to work his arthritic shoulder. He throws on a farm he owns in the flatlands of Moody, Texas, not far from Baylor University, where he once was a star. McCormack helped lead the Baylor Bears to the semifinals of the College World Series in 2005. What followed was a 5-year odyssey in the St. Louis Cardinals minor league system, where injuries limited him to just 47 games and a 4.31 ERA.
Better?
Huh? McCormack's wife, Jenny, a personal trainer, worked with him.
He'd wake up, and every day he would, look, I can do this, and it was nothing.
The low point of McCormack's career came when the Cardinals told him he wouldn't be pitching for them in 2009.
He was so down for a long time, and that was the hardest part for us, or for me, is just to try to keep him positive about, moving forward, because at this point, he was done.
McCormack stayed close to home.
Let's go, 15.
Filling his days with grueling workouts, keeping his hope of a comeback alive. In November, after a 5th shoulder operation failed to relieve his arthritis, McCormack boarded a flight from Texas to the Cayman Islands to get the kind of medical treatment that is illegal in the U.S.
I guess the worst part's the marrow draw, but I guess I'm about to have that today.
Should stick a bit.
McCormack is about to have bone marrow loaded with stem cells extracted from his back. His doctors believe the stem cells can help grow healthy tendons in his shoulder and restore his big league movement.
These are your own bone marrow-derived cells.
The experimental procedure is being done in the Caymans by Regenerative Sciences, a Colorado-based company. Its CEO, Chris Centeno, insists that stem cells are the next big breakthrough in sports medicine. Doctor, what are stem cells?
Stem cells are basic cells that live inside of all of us that are there to help repair damaged tissue. So it's a cell that can become another cell You could call them building blocks, bricks and mortar. These are the cells that help to keep us alive. These are high-tech centrifuges that allow specific speeds to occur.
Spinning McCormack's marrow in a high-speed centrifuge, Centeno isolates 1 million of the tissue-growing stem cells. Then he grows them in this germ-free room and puts them into cold storage until they can be re-injected into McCormack's shoulder. The whole process will take about 2 months.
You could really consider these the tools of the 21st century. We have early research showing that they can be used for cartilage repair, for bone repair, and if you do it the right way, you can actually enhance the body's healing potential.
So are you suggesting that these might be able to replace surgeries?
I think a certain segment of the surgeries we do today for common orthopedic conditions will probably phase out over the next 20 years.
The U.S. government is less enthusiastic. In this lawsuit, the Food and Drug Administration accuses Centeno of operating outside the medical mainstream. It says that by culturing his patient's stem cells, he's creating an unapproved new drug. The Justice Department writes in its complaint, failure to establish and follow appropriate written procedures designed to prevent microbiological contamination, failure to perform appropriate laboratory testing of each batch of drug product. That sounds pretty serious.
But these are all drug rules. We are not a drug factory. We are a medical practice.
You're very comfortable with the safety of what you do?
Absolutely.
Since moving his culturing practice outside the FDA's jurisdiction in October, Centeno has treated 3 professional American athletes besides McCormack.
So far, so good?
He expects that number to climb dramatically this year.
The chances of things going wrong are higher than the chances of helping.
Ted Friedman is the head of the World Anti-Doping Agency panel that is charged with monitoring the use of stem cells in sport. Dr. Friedman worries about athletes like McCormack chasing stem cell miracles.
An athlete who thinks and wants stem cell manipulation to help him entitled to be heard and should be respected for the desperation behind his request, but that doesn't mean that premature science should be used for him.
Generally, what kind of a patient is this?
This is the sample of an Olympic sprinter who has sought us out to try to help with some ankle issues that she's been having.
Dr. Friedman is especially skeptical about Centeno's predictions. In fact, he worries that cultured stem cells can turn against their hosts instead of healing them.
So if you take cells out of the body, put them in culture in the laboratory, they, under some conditions, they begin to learn how to grow all by themselves and to be independent of the controls in the body. Put those cells in the body. The cells may or may not remember how to respond, so they keep growing. And that's the tumor.
The FDA has informed Centeno that in order to lawfully market stem cells, he will need to provide studies to get a valid biologics license.
They certainly have a different view on the regulation.
Is this the future of sports?
I think this is the future of sports.
Centeno says he spent more than $500,000 to fight the FDA in court. Meanwhile, noted orthopedist James Andrews is looking to work with a federal agency.
The first big revelation in sports medicine was the arthroscope, and the second is going to be enhancement of biological healing, and that's going to be stem cell therapy.
Last summer, Andrews performed ACL surgery on Terrell Owens, who then went to South Korea for a stem cell treatment to speed up his recovery. While Andrews will not comment on patients, he says he was so impressed with South Korea's Cha Hospital that he is considering partnering with it to do the studies that the FDA says it needs.
There's no reason in the world for our elite athletes to have to go offshore or somewhere else to get the best treatment to enhance biologic healing.
Do you consider this your last shot?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, I thought I was done a couple years ago, but I'm always one of those guys that don't want to have any regrets, so if this is giving me another shot, then I'll take it.
Sean Assail of ESPN, the magazine, reporting. Now, Mark McCormack is scheduled to return to the Cayman Islands this weekend, this time to have his stem cells injected back into his shoulder. His doctors expect improvement in 4 to 6 weeks, though they say that some patients need as many as 3 injections. McCormack's last shot to stick in the pros. That tryout's coming up in March. Questions of ethics and motive and regulation and safety and location. And again, under current FDA regulations, stem cell therapy, as shown in our report, cannot be performed currently in the United States. Let's say good day to Dr. Joseph Purita, who performed the stem cell therapy on Bartolo Colon 2 years ago in the Dominican Republic. Dr. Purita practices in Florida. Jarvis Green won 2 Super Bowl rings with the New England Patriots. 2 years ago, he had stem cell therapy administered at the clinic of Dr. Centeno, who you saw in that report. Therapy was in Colorado. It came before the FDA crackdown. And Dr. Arthur Kaplan is a PhD and professor of bioethics at the University of Pennsylvania. He's been critical of the stem cell therapy industry as a whole and the promises of improbable cures. And gentlemen, it is great to have you all here. Jarvis, how bad were you at the point you decided to go for stem cell therapy, and what were you told the benefits would be?
Well, I was pretty bad. How you doing, guys, today? But I was pretty bad, and I left New England Patriots and went to the Denver Broncos and signed a contract. But in between that time for my off-season workout, I got to the point that I couldn't walk up the stairs. It was hard just to drive for 5 minutes and sitting down in one place on the airplane. I mean, I know a lot of times I used to get up and go to the bathroom or just walk around. I mean, almost to the point it was every 15 to 20 minutes. And it was very painful. Couldn't play with my kids. I couldn't do anything, and I was in so much pain. And I remember just taking so much, Tylenol, Advil, just to try to cope with the pain. And then when I found out about Dr. Centeno and Schultz Clinic, it was just funny because I was in Denver and I Googled so many different things about going across seas and going to China and to different places, but I saw it was in Broomfield, Colorado, and I went and talked to Dr. Schultz, and it was just weird because it was just me taking a chance, because I didn't know, but I know I didn't want to go to surgery. And they told me it's going to help, it's going to be fast healing, and it's you know what, when I did the procedure and everything I had to get done, it was just amazing because right there I had to go home for about 3 weeks. And then I had training camp. And like they said on the interview, you got to have at least 8 to 10 weeks to heal. Well, in those 3 weeks, my meniscus started growing back, and I went through training camp, didn't miss 1 day of practice, going through 2 a days, running twice a day, lifting weights and running. And I still got released the last day before training camp, but I ended up playing for the Houston Texans my last 3 weeks of the season, and did multiple workouts for different teams. So I said, wow, it really helped me, because before that I couldn't walk up the stairs.
So you see positive benefits. And Dr. Purita, just picking up on what Jarvis says were his benefits, is stem cell therapy responsible for Bartolo Colon's career being resuscitated the last 2 years?
I would have to say absolutely it is. I mean, he was out of baseball for years and basically bad shoulder, bad elbow. Before we did anything on him, he couldn't pitch much over 80 miles an hour, and the results are self-explanatory. He was pitching 95 miles an hour. It lasted most of the season, 38 years old. It's not just coincidental. It's not placebo. It's the stem cells.
All right, so Dr. Kaplan, we have two, well, the practitioner in one case and the patient in the other say this works. You heard what Jarvis said. He Googled possible areas, and we've all seen the 60 Minutes report several weeks ago, and you've been critical of the fraud generally in this field. As far as stem cell, bone marrow, and culturing for athletes, what's your view?
Well, it is the future, no doubt about it. Stem cells are a powerful tool. They let you grow back cells that can rebuild ligaments or bones. The question is it today or is it really in the future still? And the answer is you got to do the studies. It's great to have Jarvis, get helped, and it's wonderful that some of these clinics have seen people get benefit, but you got to organize it in a way so that if athlete X has a particular drug and it interacts with the bone marrow and he gets a tumor, you don't want that. If athlete Y has some underlying condition that's going to make it not work for him, you need to know that. The fight isn't about whether we should do stem cells someday. The fight today is about getting these things into appropriate studies and trials so that you can make sure it's safe as well as that it works.
So, Dr. Purita, where are those studies? Are they underway?
Okay, let's talk about, first of all, when we're talking about stem cells, in orthopedics, we've been basically doing something like this for years. You may have heard of something called a microfracture technique, where we'll make little holes in the bone and we'll allow stem cells from the bone marrow to leak out and heal the area. What we're doing is we're just basically concentrating it, doing it the same way, number one. Number two, are there studies? This is a difficult thing to do studies on. I mean, what are we going to do? Do half the people we're going to take their bone marrow, half the people not? I can give you a good example of how this may be. When we started doing open heart surgery, we based it on clinical knowledge, animal safety, and general safety, and then we started doing open heart surgery. We didn't do a double-blind study saying half the people we're going to do open heart surgery on, half were not. Now, what it can get into is, you know, if you're going to culture cells or not culture cells. I'm not going to get into that. I know there's some litigation pending. But we have to look at this, and we've been doing it for a while. We're doing it in orthopedics. Microfracture is something that has been done on a lot of different athletes, and it's worked on some, not on others. We're just trying to refine that technique and make it better.
Let me jump in and just say, sometimes I hear the pharmaceutical industry say the same thing. This drug works just like that one. We don't need to do the studies. They're pretty similar. But we know that oftentimes other drugs that are pretty close have all kinds of nasty side effects and adverse events. The question becomes, if you're going to start using this not just on elite athletes, but on anybody with arthritis, on anybody who's got a bone or a joint problem, you don't want to put it out there just based on testimonials. That's why we have the studies required for drugs. That's why we ought to have them for these procedures too. It's a big, complicated world out there about who uses this stuff. You know, we're even doing studies here at Penn now on horses. They get the same ailments, they get the same problems. We're going to have some animals from we're going to have some answers from the animal studies we're doing now, if you will, from elite horses that are in competition and racing and so on. We'll get some of that, but we ought to be doing the same thing carefully and cautiously. You know, we've got a Wilbur and Orville Wright technology that's trying to get us to the moon right now.
Jarvis, you've been quoted as saying you're willing to go ahead and perhaps have more procedures, believing in it as a patient. But what do you think about the fact that right now the procedure that you had done on you could not be performed in this country, and but for a different click of the mouse, you might have picked somebody across the seas who may not have been nearly as skilled and ethical?
You know what? That's right there. I mean, that's the big question mark, because you go across seas, you take a lot more risks, and you have so many doctors, fly-by-night doctors. You don't know where the education comes from, their training, far as just information that they gathered. You know, you say it's convenient, but then you have a country like America with great doctors and great research and money, billions of dollars put into research every year. And you know what? The proof is in the pudding. You go to the guys who did the stem cell. Come talk to me. I'm a guy that couldn't walk up the stairs. I'm jogging now. I'm biking. I'm swimming. I'm in the mountains. I'm snowboarding. You know, and from that, before I got cut because of my knee situation, but I'm not playing football anymore. I'm up here working. But the quality of life, man, I can sit and drive a truck for 35, 36 hours straight and not get out because I don't have any more arthritis and the knee pain in my knee. The proof is in the pudding. Come talk to me. Come talk to the guys who've done the stem cell, but it works. And I can tell you this too, guys. I did an MRI before the treatment and after. The results are there. You can see it circulating red, and you can see the cartilage is growing. My meniscus, all that is growing. It works.
Now, Dr. Purita, is this a medical question going forward or more of a political question?
It's a little bit of both, okay? I think, you know, there's politics here. There's a lot of big money here. I think what you have is, you know, Big Pharma maybe saying, hey, wait a minute, you know, we're not going to make much money on this. This is from the patient. So I think there's a little bit of everything going on here. And I think one thing that the audience needs to realize is you've got to be very cautious when anything is being done to someone when they're not using their own stem cells. There, the safety risks are much, much higher. When you start using embryonic stem cells, I mean, or umbilical stem cells, I mean, who knows where they're from, what they're from. Myself, Dr. Centano, we're always using the cells from the same patient. Much safety built in there right off the bat.
Dr. Kaplan, ethical question here, since that is your field, putting aside the issues of the moment, but the entire issue of re-injecting something from your own body. How does that square in your mind ethically against, say, using HGH or artificial testosterone as a performance enhancer? Is it of the same ilk or is it totally different?
Well, I still think when you take it out and manipulate it outside the body, trying to figure out how to make it concentrated or change it, you're always adding a little bit of risk. I agree. It's somewhat safer to use things that are natural to your own body than putting in drugs or implants and devices. That's true. But you don't want to be in a situation where you didn't understand that if you move this material, treated it in different ways, even when it came from your own body, that it kept growing, and then in 5 years, everybody who's got relief today has got tumors tomorrow. That's not where we want to be.
Well, it's the stem cell debate. It will continue. Gentlemen, thank you for your time today. Dr. Joseph Purita,
Thanks,
Jarvis Green. I hope
Thank
glad
you.
to see you feeling better. And Dr. Arthur Kaplan. Gentlemen, thank you all very much.